Hi, it's David, and I got a very, I think, reasonable request on one of my comment boards there. A gentleman wanted me to at least give my opinion. And you know, when I was working in construction, we had a saying in construction, and I will try to make it a G comment. As you know, in construction, there's no G language. But anyway, I'm going to give you my opinion. And in construction language, we said that everybody has an opinion, and they're like rectums. They all stink. So maybe this one does too. Who knows? He wanted me to make a mention on the Mormons crying. Now, this is an interesting concept, and when he said it to me, it just struck me that I should do a video on that, because I've told you over and over again, there's no left side to a Mormon brain. It's only emotion. It's the right side. And when he said to me, why are they crying so much? They cry, you know, there's some people that will go into a movie house, especially females. They're a little more sensitive that way. And if the movie is very moving and very kind and very romantic, many times even men will shed tears, or the female will shed tears. Well, that shows that it's emotional. You know, the left side of the brain doesn't cry. It's the right side. The logical side doesn't cry. There's no emotion there. So it's just the right side of the brain. Well, normal people, other Mormons aren't normal, but the normal population, you may go into a movie house, I don't know, twice in 1 year or something, or once in 2 years even, and you may find a motion picture, especially if you fought in a war and there was a wartime movie and it triggered a lot of emotions and feelings and past experiences. You would cry. But you know, Mormons are crying like, good Lord, I think most Mormons are crying at least parents, not children. Well, children, they cry every day, whether they're Mormons or not. But the Mormon adults, I would say, God, I would say roughly once a month. Some more, some less. But when they get up to bear their testimony, they start to snibble. And I've done that. When I talk about my wife or my children, that's a subject that's very close to my heart. That's an expression that means that I really love them, and that emotion is triggered. And I don't think there's anything wrong with emotions being triggered and causing people to be crying. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Here's what I think is wrong. When you go to General Conference and you listen to the apostles speak, seldom, if ever, have you heard them emotional or cry. Their speeches are all written for them. They're all approved. They're all on the teleprompter, and all the old boys have to do is just read the teleprompter. But there's no emotion. There's no emotion. So see, you've got a dichotomy here. You've got the people, I think, browbeaten and feeling fearful and trepidation, and I'm going to get excommunicated, and they're in a state of frenzy, emotional frenzy. So when they get up to bless a baby, or they get up to bear their testimony, those, I think, that cry more are more emotionally in turmoil. And I would have to put myself in that when I was in a Mormon. I remember doing baptisms for the dead in the Los Angeles temple, and I was confirming. The kids were coming through and being baptized, and I was one of the people that had my hands on their head and confirming them a member of the church. And I became, you know, in one of those sessions, extremely emotional. No reason, just started crying, like it was a release of some type of pent-up emotion. Well, it was. It's called anxiety. And I remember working at the Veil in Los Angeles. Now, a lot of people say, well, that was spiritual. That's the Holy Ghost speaking to your heart. Well, I don't think so. What I think is there were a couple of people that came to the veil, and it's amazing. It seems to me they were all women, but generally the women are more spiritual. But I remember 3, 4 that came to the veil, and as soon as I took their hands, I became emotional right there. I don't know why. Again, maybe just anxiety being released and and stammering on sentences that I knew for a long time, and not being able to speak as God, because I was choked up. Now, how do you explain that? Jeez, I don't know. I don't think there's one explanation. I don't think there's one, because I think there may be 8 explanations or 15. I think I was so upset and so guilty, even though I've never done anything. I've never been in a court of love. I've never been in disciplinary councils. I just felt that I was working 2 jobs, trying to raise 10 or 12 kids, now 14 kids, and didn't have enough sleep, didn't eat well, and worked, and then went to church. There was no weekend. Saturday was getting ready for Sunday, and Sunday was nothing but meetings. And after years and years of that, I was just emotionally and physically beat down. And so I think that emotion was closer to the surface than other Mormons. I'm not saying the Mormon church only causes anxiety. It's the king of anxiety, but it's not the only anxiety-producing organization. So I think to have this in our heads correctly, it's a continuum. I was way over here. I mean, I was just so guilty and so afraid and trying to be perfect that and being bipolar, see, we become obsessive. We're not compulsive obsessive, but we're obsessive, that we have to be perfect. If that's the rule, then we're expected to be perfect. Now, a person is not bipolar. They go, well, they say that, but no one's perfect. And they seem to be able to relax a little bit more. So I think it's what you bring to the table. If you bring a mental illness, or you bring a bad childhood, or molestation, or other kinds of sexual rape, or other kinds of assaults, criminal problems, when you bring those kinds of things to a table, and then you're in an organization that is just pounding the crap out of you, be perfect, and you're not, and you're running like a crazy person, and you're just all pent up with anxiety, that emotion is just going to fly out. It's just going to fly out. So I'm not going to say that Mormons or Mormonism is what causes people to cry. I'm going to say it's stress. Now, if you want to equal stress with Mormonism, and I would, there's a lot of stress being a Mormon. I mean, I've got 303 tapes on here right now that I'm telling you, it was stressful. And I feel much better now that I've been able to be a free man and speak my mind. But to say that Mormonism is the only cause of stress, and being a Mormon, you're going to be stressed, they're 2 separate things. I think being a Mormon, you are going to be stressed. But it's what you bring to the table. If you're a pretty well-adjusted person before you get there, and you're attractive looking, and you don't have any money problems, and you're just happy, and you got a couple of degrees, you're not going to feel as much anxiety as a poor person coming into the Mormon church trying to live on 90% of $10,000. It's a lot harder with 5 kids than 90% of your income when you make $500,000. You don't worry about are you going to eat. So, to be fair and to be educated in this area, stress and how long you hold stress in and how high that stress gets is going to determine emotions just popping out. Now, does that mean a soldier in the field is, because of the stress he's under, he could be killed at any moment, is he going to be snibbling like a bunny? Does a whole Marine Corps snibble going up on the beach? The answer there is no. Because again, the human mind is not just one thing. You can't say, everybody's like this. No way. Everybody is unique and different. When you go into the military, you go into a training cult process of disassociation. What you do is you charge up that beach, and when they blow your right arm off, you say, well, at least I got a left one, and put your gun in it and keep running. No common sense. Just emotion. Just emotion, like the Mormon church. So you can disassociate and the emotion doesn't come up. Now, when those soldiers come home, they have a few minutes to think, days or whatever, and look down and they see no leg and no arm, now you're going to probably get true human emotion. But when they're in the heat of the battle, they're going to disassociate. It's very similar to a multiple personality diagnosis, which is now called a dissociative disorder. So you can't just nail it down. The human mind is always going to be slippery. This one is not going to be like that, and that one's not going to be like this. You can make some general statements and some general categories. Not everyone is going to fit into them, but I would say this. Being a Mormon is very high stress. I don't care how rich you are, how poor you are. If you're poor, it's even more stressful. There's a lot of guilt with Mormonism that you're never going to be perfect and you're always making mistakes and everyone is moving up the ladder but you, and it just goes on and on and on. There's a lot of stress in Mormonism. What you bring to the table, your personality, your psychic makeup, your self-esteem is going to intermix with those Mormon fears and trepidations and being perfect. And so you may come out of it and go, well, you know, it's a little stressful, but it's no big deal. And then you get another person that goes, gee, I'm hanging from, you know, the rafters with a rope. I thought it was a little too much stress. So you can't just say in one way, this is it or that. So I would say this, especially as a counselor. If you've got some issues, molestation, you've got, like I said before, drug issues maybe, alcoholism, bad marriages, family, whatever. And then you become a Mormon, you're sitting on a ticking time bomb. Because you're not bringing much to the table. And now the church is going to crush you in a vice, and you're just going to explode. And that's what happened to the guy, I think it was in Orange County, California, a year and a half ago. He walked in and said, who's the bishop? And the guy goes, I am. And he put a gun up in the guy's face and killed him right there in sacrament meeting. He blew up. He just could not take it. And we get a lot of gay people that commit suicide in the Mormon church. They're very high statistics because those people are under tremendous stressful situations. They need to get the hell out of the Mormon church if truly they're gay. It's going to kill them. They'll be killed at their own hand because they're bringing to the table enough guilt, enough societal pressure and prejudice and stereotyping and pigeonholing. And then when the Mormon church puts the vice on them, they're like a balloon. They're just going to explode with a suicide. So those in the Mormon church who have exploded into suicides and into bizarre sexual acts and bizarre criminal acts, Hoffman and others who are in jail, they didn't bring a lot to the table, and that's why you get like Warren Jeffs. He got slapped today with no phone calls. If you've read what he's told his people, he's excommunicated half of them, and the rest of them all have to make a list of what they own because they're going to live the law of consecration and try to get more attorneys, I guess, for him to get out of jail, and it ain't going to work in Texas. But anyway, he didn't bring much to the table. His ass is in jail. Joseph Smith didn't bring much to the table. He was shot to death. And Brigham Young was poisoned, appearing to poison. It's not a confirmation, but I'm leaning that way. After the information I read, he ate some fruit. Well, when you're 50 or 60 years old, fruit ain't going to kill you, but poison will. And they had some Danites, and they had, Porter Rockwell and others that, for a small fee, you don't have to excommunicate this one. Just kill him. So Porter Rockwell did. So, I hope I'm fair. The Mormon Church puts tremendous stress and pressure on a person, which is going to have their emotions, their anger, their crying, their screaming, their yelling right up here. Right up. I can't get my hands right. Well, I'm old. Is this my hand? No, now they're fighting me. Your emotions are going to be way, way up here. If they're already up here, because of your life, they're going to be up here. And it's just a ticking time bomb. You're going to cry at every baby blessing. You're going to cry at baptism. You're going to cry, and you're going to cry because you're overloaded. You're way overloaded, and you need medication and or counseling or together. And you need to rearrange your lifestyle. You may have to change jobs. You may have to go on disability. You may have to let your wife work or your husband, and you're the one who stays home with the kids. So these are just warnings and a voice of caution that if you're bringing here problems in the Mormon Church and you come into Mormonism, those problems are going to be up over your head. And if you're gay, you're going to kill yourself. If you're, if you're here and you really like to molest children, oh my God, now you're going to molest them. You join the Mormon Church, and it's a perfect place to cover up and a perfect place to molest children. So we all need to examine ourselves and say, well, gee, where are we? And now that I'm out of the Mormon Church, I'm way down here. Because when people write me and say, you're fat, you're ugly, you're uneducated, you're stupid, I go, okay. It doesn't go up here anymore. I go, hey, I'm not going to fight with anybody. I don't need to. I don't need to prove anything anymore. I'm not in a battle. I'm not in a defense mode. I go, hey, when one guy called me a geek, I examined my life, and I thought, geez, I am a geek. Okay, but it didn't go up here. I'm not a geek. I'm going to tell you, and here's the scripture, and you're all wrong. Good Lord, my stress level has come way down. It used to be right up here all the time. So examine yourself. What are you bringing to the table? Look at your childhood. Look at your emotions. Look at your resources. I have a wonderful wife now that puts up with my crap. I can sit here and record, and she's in there and listening, and she's LDS, and she just goes, hey, say whatever you want to say. And when she says, Jesus wanted that mall built in Salt Lake, okay. But both of our levels are down here, so we don't explode and scream, and me throw scriptures, and she throws the triple combination back, and then she doesn't speak to me for 9 weeks, and we don't have that kind of a relationship. We're both pretty, these days. When I was Mormon, oh my God, everything triggered me. Everything triggered me. And I just want to be a voice of warning. Examine ourselves. And if you're way down here, when you join the Mormon Church, you'll be up a little bit, but you may not go over the top. You may not. And those are probably some of the more happy, if you want to say that word, Mormons. They're probably the more vibrant people because they're bringing no baggage. They're bringing no baggage. All of their baggage will be the Mormon Church. Man, if you've got, baggage up to your eyebrows, and then the Mormon Church throws all that extra baggage of extra kids and extra income and money that's gone here, and you have no Sunday, there's no weekends, and you're busy, your stress is going to go up, but it may not go over the top. So I don't want to generalize and say the Mormons are snibble bunnies all the time. I do want to say that there's probably a higher proportion of snibble bunnies in the Mormon Church because there's so many desperate people that join. They're divorced or in the middle of a divorce. They just lost a child through death or disease. They've just become disabled. They've moved and they've lost their job. The Mormon Church conversion rates are higher in those areas of baggage with human beings. But if you go to someone's house that's a $1 million house and it's got 6 Mercedes out front and you go, we'd like to have 10% of your income for the rest of your life, the guy's going to go, no. He's going to shut the door, and that's the end of it. So let's measure ourselves, and those of you that are still in the Mormon Church, be cautious. It may not be today. It may not be for 5 years, 8 years. It took me 50 years to figure this crap out. maybe I'm a slow learner. But finally, when I got that damn stress level down, now I can relax on Sundays. I love Sundays because the Mormons all go to church and the roads are all clear in Utah on Sundays. And I don't have to go out of the house. Sometimes I'll sit in the house 5 days, 7 days, because I love my kids. I love helping them. I got 2 of them doing homework right now and projects, science this, and dead frogs and other kinds of things. And my wife comes home, and we enjoy each other. We went out to, we went out to lunch yesterday and out to lunch again today. I don't have the stress of the old cars. Oh my God. You know what it's like to be 27 years old and have a newborn baby, 1 or 2 months old, and a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old in the middle of a winter storm in a piece of shit car on bald tires. If you don't think that brings you a little stress, you're a lot better person than I am. I quit paying the damn tithing and the fast offering. It makes the payment on 2 new cars. I have 2 2011 cars. No stress. I get up in the morning, push the button, the car starts. It's insured. I drove 40 years. 40 years. I drove in California. I've driven in Massachusetts. I've driven in Utah. And I've driven in Missouri with no car insurance because I couldn't afford it. Now it comes out. I never had automatic withdrawals from our income because I hate the charges of $300 or $400 or $500 a month for overdrafts. I've learned that's not one of my talents. So I let my sweet little wife, she does all of the finances, and she's never bounced a check, and so she's still a virgin financially. So we need to measure ourselves. We need to see what we're bringing to the table. And boy, once I released all those pressures, I laugh more. I love to go out to eat. I love taking the kids out. I go out to their PTA meetings, which I didn't do a lot with my other kids. And I go to their conferences and, I'm helping them with their words and homework. And God, I can sit in my chair and I got 2 remotes. I can get up in the middle of the night and watch TV for 2 or 3 hours and go, I don't care, because I can sleep anytime I want. I can eat anytime I want. I can eat whatever I want. I can have wine if I want, or I can exercise. And you know what? This is super. I'm 64 next month. I got my first power toothbrush that I have ever had in my life at Christmas. My little Filipino wife, she loves this shit in the United States. So in the old days, they didn't work worth crap. And I just had a prejudice, and I never had an electric toothbrush. Now I have one, and I get up in the morning and brush my teeth more because I go, hey, this is cool. So, get rid of that tithing, get rid of that fast offering, get rid of that old car, and get some retirement and get some peace. Some peace. Life isn't meant to be a fight all the time. When you're young, God, you're fighting with the kids and raising them. You're fighting with your wife. You're adjusting to the relationship, and you're trying to keep your head above water. I got one kid that her tooth came in crooked the other day. It looks like she's going to need braces. I remember when I panicked in that kind of stuff with all the kids that I had. I've told you once before on an older video, I had a boy who was young, and he was crying in the backyard, and suddenly I didn't hear him crying anymore. So I knew he wasn't not crying because he was good. The other kids were putting pennies and dimes and nickels, and he's laying on his back in his open mouth. And he was choking to death. Well, I got to go out and slap 7 or 8 kids away from his bassinet, pick him up, turn him over, beat the crap out of his back. And I threw him in the car, and I drove over to Utah Valley Hospital back in those days in Provo there. And I set him up on the emergency room counter. And the lady says, well, what's his name? We'll check him in. I said, no, I can't afford to check him in. He's breathing right now. If he turns blue, I'll sign. But I'm not signing as long as he's still looking Caucasian. So if it looks like the Blue Man, they didn't even exist then. If it looks like the Blue Man Act, we'll admit him. And I sat in there probably for an hour. And he seemed to be breathing okay. I shook him a little bit. So if the change was in there, you could either hear it or he'd start to quit breathing. Well, then I went home and beat up all the kids that tried to buy the baby with change. I never thought of quieting a baby by putting pennies in his mouth, but now I know that there's a new technique of abuse. So he came home. There was no charge at the hospital. Now, I'm saying that now because it's so damn funny. I did that because I had no money. I could not take care of my children. And I have a good education, and I worked hard. I was a glazer, a construction guy. I was always employed. I was always bringing home a regular paycheck. And we weren't extravagant. Oh, my God, we lived in Provo. We lived in mobile homes. I was the king, of mobile homes in Provo. So we weren't exaggerating and exacerbating our situation. And tuition at BYU, Lord, in those days, it was $700 a semester. Jesus. I can't believe I had a baby on humor. I would wonder if the doctors and the nurses go, that dad could be abusive. He says there's money in the baby, but when he picks it up, you can't hear it. Jesus. Lower your stress. Have some fun. Do a lot of light-mindedness and loud laughter and tell your temple people, screw you. I want to live. I have had quad bypass surgery. We went out to the Chinese buffet or whatever it was, and we were coming out, and I saw the sign that said 10% discount for seniors. But it said, now see, some of them are smarter in Utah, you must be 65. And so I said to the little waitress there that was taking our money, I said, can I get the senior discount? She says, well, no, you're not 65. I said, what are you, psychic? She goes, no, you're too young. You're way too young. I said, well, do you wear glasses? Where's your cane? She says, let me see your license. Well, I knew I was a year off, but I didn't know how smart she was. I was going to try to cheat her. So I showed her my license, and she looked up and she says, it looks like you're missing a month and 1 year. I bowed my head and said, yes. She charged me full price, the little person. Oh, God. Those Asian girls just drive me crazy. They are so gracious, so gracious. Lower your stress. Have some fun. I remember I was a Mormon, and my kids teased the crap out of me on this one. We would go into McDonald's, and I figure I'm working. It's like the hunters. They eat first. So I get myself a Big Mac. Well, I've got 17 or 18 kids in the back seat. I don't even know. And I don't even care. So I say, well, give me 6 Happy Meals. And they go, okay. And the kids can't order whether it's a cheeseburger. I don't care if they get a Coke or a 7-Up. I don't care. Just give me 6 of them. And so I would get the Big Mac, and I'd sit there. I'd just throw the boxes in the back. Cut them in half, kids. There's not enough. All right, give him your fries. Let him get 2 straws on your Coke. That was my Mormon stress. Good Lord, I lived like that for 50 years. No wonder I had quad bypass surgery. No wonder I'm diabetic. Anything that has to do with stress, I've got it. Now, I've had Mormons write to me and they say, well, you have heart disease because of your family. Well, my grandfather and grandmother had no heart disease. And my father and my mother have no heart disease. And I have 4 brothers and sisters. They don't have any heart disease. So, yes, I could be a mutation. And most of my family says, you are a mutation. You're proof of Darwin's theory. Screw them. So anyway, my heart disease, I'm sure, was not having enough fun in life and being too serious. When I can go to a restaurant now and order a pina colada or a margarita, I do that about once every 2 months. And then I make my wife drive because I will not drive with any alcohol in my system. I've learned that. But being a Mormon is not fun. It's a miserable cult. and you're scared and you're crying and you go to bed at night and you can't sleep. I used to get up well, I still do, but I still get up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning because I was a bus driver at BYU, and I would take a charter. I'd load 100 people on a bus to go to Manti at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I drove all night. Went down there, slept on the back of the bus, froze my ass off. They'd come out of the temple session. I'd drive them home. We'd get home at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. The sun is just coming up, and I got a 7 o'clock BYU class. Lived like that for years. Heart disease, diabetes, stress, psychotropic drugs, and antidepressants up the kazoo. Now that I'm not a member of the church, sir, bipolar, I have to take some psychotropic drugs. And I do have to shoot some insulin because, I'm overweight and I eat what I want to eat, finally. And I'm just saying that basically when you become free and you can do what you want to do and you can have light-mindedness and loud laughter. I mean, that's what these videos, to me, are all about. I never laughed. I never had any fun. One of my younger sons and his wife, they go out every weekend and they go dancing and they drink, and my kids go down and babysit their little ones, and they know how to live. They're enjoying their lives. I was a miserable piece of crap all the years I was in the Mormon church. My dad looked like the Walking Dead. He was a Mormon, from the time he was 27, 26. He never smiled. When I got my she's now 13. Year old, and adopted her. She was 8 when I adopted her. She never smiled. Nothing was funny, and she was a Mormon. She came from a Mormon family in the Philippines, and boy, she just was so serious. I mean, it was like the weight of the damn world on her shoulders. And it broke my heart when she wrote to me. I had to put him in private school because in the Philippines, if you have an American father, your children are kidnapped, raped, and you were at gunpoint at the ATM giving the Muslims money. And when I put her in private school to protect her, she wrote me a letter that looked like a first grader because their educational system there is terrible. And she said, "Dad, I'm sorry that I'm so sad, but I'm sad because I'm poor and I have no hope." Well, now she's an A student. She speaks 2 languages. She plays classical piano. She's the most popular hip-hop dancer at her school. She shoots basketball. She ice skates. She roller skates. She skateboards. And she smiles all the time. And she will say to me, Dad, come out here. Let's watch a scary movie." And it's funny to have a 13-year-old girl again because I never spent this time with my other kids. I was a Mormon and I was gone. I was gone all the time. And if I saw them for 10 minutes in a day, it was great. But these kids are different. And she would say, "Dad, come out here. I want to watch something scary." And she'd sit on the other side of the couch and we'd both be sitting there. And I'd look at her and say, "It's only going to be 10 seconds. You're going to be right over here." "No, I can take it this time." And they play the scary music. Here she comes. She still comes over like a baby, and I get to hold her, and she's just like a precious little child. So I'm enjoying my life without the cult, and I feel better. My blood pressure is down. I can walk. I can drive. My personality hasn't changed much. I just used to go like this and keep everything inside. That was my Mormon face, and the real face is what you're seeing right now. That's the way I was, and that's the way my kid and my wife, she's a returned missionary. And, when I married her, they have no sense of humor. None. They're the most damn serious, sad people I have ever met. And now that the atheist has been chasing her around the bedroom and laughing and doing the videos, and we just laugh and laugh in our house we don't even get out of bed. And we're laughing and making jokes, and the kids are coming in, and we're trying to be happy. and we are happier than we ever were in the Mormon church. So going back is basically, I don't think the Mormons cry any more than any other group who have a lot of stress, desperate people in it. Those emotions are close to the top, and they're going to bounce out. It's what you're bringing to the table, and if you don't think Mormonism is stress, you don't know anything about the Mormon church. Thanks.